You don't even really need a book. So I think I might just go old school and just buy a couple books and maybe take like 30 minutes, an hour every day and just like read about it and read about different things.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting some books too. I got a couple I'm finishing now. I don't want to buy books, and I have what I already have here that I have not finished. So I'm gonna finish these, and I know like I want to get that Think Grow Rich book that everybody be talking about. I
No,
feel
I read part of it. I read like the first like 3 or 4 chapters of it, but I haven't finished it yet.
I want that one. I know I want to get the 50 Cent book. People said that one was a good book too. Um, what was it? Get Rich, Hustle, or something, some book where he's sitting in like a king's chair. Everybody said that book was good. This book called The Big Leap. So I'm definitely trying to get more into, like you said, carve out at least an hour in your day towards
Just
reading.
yeah,
A lot of people don't do that no more.
yeah, because you'll see like once you do it. Because I feel like once I start doing it, like that hour will just feel like just goes by like that. Once you just, I might just put my phone on do not disturb and just take an hour to myself to kind of like learn about.
Especially if you get a good read too. That's what it is. If it's not a good read, that hour's going to drag along. But get a good read, educational, thought provoking. Um, but we're gonna get into it. It is another episode of the Bench Mob Podcast. We are back. It's another installment. I'm here with my boy Miles. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. New week, new beginnings. Let's do this.
Yeah, this week I like how it's looking in Jersey. The weather is getting pretty decent this week in the 60s.
It's cold right now, but the next few days, like after tomorrow, it's going to be in the 60s. That's good.
Yeah, I see a 66 Saturday, 66 Sunday. Might get a couple of morning ball runs in outside. You feel
Maybe,
me?
maybe sometime on the golf course. You know, I thought the
Yeah,
season was over, but hey, they're trying to let me back in. So
yeah. I forgot you on your Tiger Woods now, but it was a jam-packed Sunday again with football, which we discussed is kind of the only thing we got going on right now in sports. Um, we're gonna start off, recapping week 8, Steelers, Ravens. Steelers pull out this game 28-24. What's some of your takeaways from this game?
this is kind of like that rivalry game that everybody tunes into, and I was kind of upset because they didn't have it on TV at all. Like you only could see it on Red Zone or if you streaming it online. But like, come on, you got to take the Jets game off. We don't need to see
Yeah.
Mahomes do 5 touchdowns and all this stuff, carrying Tyreek Hill off the field. I don't see that. But I've seen it for 8 weeks now. I'm good. I'm good with the Jets at this point. You could put them on PBS. Maybe the kids could learn something about how losing can affect you. But the Steelers Ravens game was good. That was a good one because it got off to a rough start. You know, weather was affecting it. Like Ben Roethlisberger looked rough against that Ravens defense, which is elite. Like both defenses are probably like 1 and 2 in the league, so it was going to be tough. Like Lamar, I don't know. This year he just doesn't look as good as he did last year. Which, I mean, nobody's going to be able to look that good because last year he was on another world. But they really need him to like kick it into another gear, like relive some of that stuff from last year because there's going to be games like this. They've lost to 2 teams that are going to be right there in the AFC. They lost to the Steelers and they lost to the Chiefs. Like something's got to give. Like the defense is elite. Like that's going to keep them in games. Now they need Lamar to take that next leap and start winning games instead of just riding the defense, which is basically what they've done. Like last year, they were good. Come playoff time, people were on it. They were on the Lamar, run pass option. And I think people are kind of keying in on that now. So now you got to try to like,
I was going to ask you that. Do you think this year it's Lamar Jackson? Is it the same player, isn't the same quarterback, or is it just the league has completely caught up to him?
I think, I mean, that was really his first year starting last year. Like he started like half the games the year before his rookie year, but he didn't really throw it that much. He was like more of a athlete playing quarterback his rookie year. Then he took that next step last year. Now he's kind of taking a step back, which it's kind of affecting their standing in the AFC. Like Chiefs are clearly the best team in the AFC. Well, I mean, I say clearly because Steelers look really good with that defense and Ben Roethlisberger dumping off to all those receivers that they got. They're not the top team in the conference anymore. Like last year, they had the best record. This year, they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot because I don't see them jumping ahead of the Steelers. I don't really see many teams beating the Steelers this year. They could honestly lose one or two games max, and one of those games might be Week 17 where they sit everybody because they don't have to play. They don't. There's no risk of injury if they don't play. So, but with the Ravens, I just don't. I don't know. Like they don't have an easy schedule. Like the defense is basically carrying this team because Lamar, I mean, if you look at it, he's thrown for over 200 yards maybe twice this year. Like as a starting quarterback in this league, that's not really going to fly. And especially you're not like lighting the league on fire with your legs this year like you were last year. Like he's rushed for 100 yards once, which that's cool. But look who you did it against. You didn't do it against one of these better teams.
Mhm.
So you look at yesterday's game, and I don't know, man. I'm rooting for Lamar. Like I like Lamar a lot, but he's got a lot of pressure riding on him this year, more than probably any other quarterback in the league, just because he's 0-2 in the playoffs. He's got an elite defense that's ready to win right now. It's almost reminiscent of like Joe Flacco when they won the Super Bowl. Like that defense was unreal and almost just needed the offense not to make any mistakes and you win. But this team, he's not the same passer as Joe Flacco. I feel like Joe Flacco is a little bit of a better passer. Not to say that Lamar's not head over heels better than Joe Flacco, but passing wise, he's not there yet. I think most people can agree with that. He's not there as a passer yet. So, I mean,
Yeah,
my bad.
he, uh,
I went on a little rant there, but go ahead.
nah, it's a tough situation. He ends up with two picks, two fumbles in that game yesterday. If they don't turn the ball over, who's to say we're looking at a Steelers team get their first loss last night? And Ravens pretty much did their part in regards of the defense. And even in the front of running, as a team, they outran Pittsburgh 265 yards to 48 yards. The Ravens did their part.
That's what they do. They run it. So if you can't win with the run, I don't know. I don't know what I could really say about the Ravens at this point. Like you even have Marquise Brown after the game saying like, "How you gonna have killers and not use them?" Because he had one catch the whole game. Like he's their deep threat. But that's the issue with this team. They don't really throw it deep. Like this whole team's built around kind of like short passes, and I mean that worked a lot last year because it was the first time people were seeing this. But this year, it's not going to work like that.
Yeah, I think they maybe need to switch it up, and then we'll see what happens if they bring Des Bryant off the practice squad, who will fit into their system of the short passes. We're not expecting Des Bryant to go long and stretch out the defense for them, but that's the style they want to play. Maybe you bring Des Bryant off that practice squad; he'll fit into that system. We could see him as much as of that. Even when he was healthy with the Cowboys, he wasn't really a big time. Hey, go down 60 yards, we give you a pass type wide receiver. Other game we saw Titans, Bengals. Bengals pull out the win at 31-20. Joe Burrow throws for 2 TDs, 249 yards. Takeaways from the Titans losing to the Bengals.
I didn't think that the Bengals would be a trap game for them, but it turned out that way. Just that defense was brutal for Tannehill to go against for some reason. I don't know because this Bengals team is not that good. Like Joe Burrow's nice; he's going to be really good in this league, but right now they're not like a team competing for the playoffs. And that's the opposite of what the Titans are. Like they're probably one of the better teams in this conference. Like you have Derrick Henry and you got Ryan Tannehill. Just ride them for the whole season, and they made the AFC Championship last year. So it was just a confusing game how it was going. Like nothing was really working. The blocking wasn't really working for the Titans. Nobody was really making that many plays besides who was it? Corey Davis got a lot of playing time. But yeah, Joe Burrow, he's he's the real deal. And this gives Bengals fans hope for coming years that they got their guy. Like they had Andy Dalton, and what we've seen from him as a Cowboy shows that's why you got rid of him. And yeah, Joe Burrow is already better than what Andy Dalton was for them for all those years. And just add some pieces around him and you'll be good. But the Titans, they need to regroup because that's two straight losses, one to the Steelers, and then they almost carried that loss over to the next week, and they lose to the Bengals, which is a head scratcher.
Yeah, Steelers, you can understand that. That's, as we said, one of the arguably the better teams in the AFC, maybe a Super Bowl contender, which we'll talk later about on. But to lose to the Bengals, that wasn't how they should have came out, especially being that, they're supposed to be contenders and they're supposed to be this team that, possibly can make some noise. One thing to point out again, concerning the Bengals, as you say, maybe get some more weapons around him. AJ Green still has not really shown up this year. Only had 2 catches yesterday out of the 5 targets. 2 catches, 19 yards. This might be the end for AJ Green in a Bengals uniform. The next game, which was no surprise to I don't think anybody in the world, from ages 0 to on their deathbed, the Eagles pulled out the win against the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, which I think right now you can say with everything going on in America, they are America's team. They really exemplify what America is about. 23-9. DiNucci, who was so excited to be a Cowboy and to play, 2 fumbles, only 180 yards passing. Eagles didn't look that good themselves. Wentz, 2 interceptions, 1 in the end zone, 2 fumbles. What are your takeaways from this game? My real question: should the NFL take all televised NFC East games off TV? Like, should they just go throughout the schedule? Any EFC East game that is televised should be taken off of TV. Really, a Sunday night game? Y'all still left that?
Yeah,
That was the prime time game?
yeah, I agree. I mean, there's not many good games played in this division right now, especially now Dak's hurt. Like that game might have been more interesting if it was Dak against Wentz, but DiNucci against Wentz is not something I want to see on Sunday night. And I mean, I watched that whole game. It was brutal. Somehow, Cowboys had the lead at halftime, I think, and that was it. They should have tried to stop it after that and tried to get them to forfeit the second half because that's the only way they're going to win any games. And that was probably the best the defense has played all season, honestly. They wasted that performance, but that's what happens when you don't have a quarterback. Andy Dalton got hurt. You got to start DiNucci, who I probably wouldn't have even thought he'd start in the CFL, let alone start an NFL game. And he was just awful. He was awful because that game was still close for
Yep.
like 4 quarters, and then the fumble happened, the take it to the house. It didn't end well, and that's probably the last we see of DiNucci in the NFL, honestly, because he didn't really show he has any use besides holding the clipboard. But
Do you
when
think this is a situation? I highly doubt that Jerry Jones would do it, but this is a situation where you have to mention, like Josh Hart brought it up on Twitter yesterday. You're telling me that Kaepernick isn't better than DiNucci or can produce the same thing that he did, 21 out of 40 attempts, 180 yards?
you're not wrong. I'd probably say Kaepernick's better, but everybody's just still caught up on that whole. It's not gonna. They don't want that circus around the team, and I don't want to call. I don't like calling it a circus, but there's gonna be way more attention on your backup quarterback than the team that's 2-6 and borderline last place in the worst division in the NFL. Like it would just, if you want a distraction, then yeah, sign Kaepernick, have him there to take some of the heat off of Jerry Jones paying all these guys and they can't win a game. So I mean, Kaepernick sounds all good and well, but it doesn't make sense for the Cowboys to go that route at this point. I mean, at this point they might as well just keep trying to lose and get a high draft pick, not pick a quarterback, but add some more talent to this team because you're gonna have to cut some guys. Some guys are gonna need to get paid. Dak is gonna need to get paid, and they should have paid him already. Now it's gonna be even worse because he's coming off an injury. I don't know. It's not looking really good for the future with the Cowboys, especially like Zeke's not looking that good. The line is banged up, awful. I don't know. There's a lot of factors going on with the Cowboys, and
Yeah, I think with how they're playing, this is apparent and obvious how valuable Dak is to their team, but also it's apparent and obvious. I'm going to be intrigued to see how these negotiations go down. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but this is abysmal. You still might have to give him his money. If he want 25, maybe you don't give him 25. Maybe you give him.
he'll take that franchise tag again if they offer him 25 a year because he's not. He's worth. I mean, he showed he's worth more than 30 mil this year. Like literally, he was the reason they were in all these games because the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Like they just were out there, just breathing. Not you're not stopping anybody. Like even the Baker Mayfield led Browns were able to torch this defense. That says everything you need to know. How bad it's been this year. And I mean, the Dak injury just made matters worse. But yeah, if I'm him, I'm going in there. He's steaming. He's got to be steaming right now because one, this is the reason why he wanted to get paid now to avoid having to go through this now because now this just makes it harder for him, harder for the Cowboys to pay him, and it could be an ugly situation that's coming for the Cowboys because they're paying their running back nearly 100 mil. They're paying Demarcus Lawrence well over 100 mil. Their offensive line is getting paid a lot of money. It's like even Jalen Smith is getting paid a lot of money, and he's been so. Like it'll come a point when you just look at this Cowboys team and think like maybe we need to just break this whole thing down and just start over. Like maybe we build around Dak, but some of these pieces don't fit in the timeline with Dak at all.
Yeah, you got to look at it, and they might have to rebuild from the ground up. It's at this point, it's like where do they go with all this money tied up into a lot of these pieces that aren't performing? So it's going to be an interesting offseason for them. I was one of the main people like, nah, Dak, I wouldn't pay Dak, but looking at how this season's going, the man, you got to pay that man his money. Transitioning somebody that really did not get paid money and might not get paid anything that he wants next season either. Cam Newton. Patriots lose 24-21 at the end of the game. They're down in field goal position. Just need a field goal, at least to tie to go into overtime. Cam fumbles the ball. Takeaways from this game, and are we seeing the end of Cam Newton possibly as a starter?
I mean, we can't. I feel like that might be a little drastic just because if you look at who he has to throw to and handing the ball off, it's not like he's almost in the same situation as Sam Darnold with the Jets. Like he's got no weapons right now. Like Edelman's out, N'Keal Harry's out. He's throwing to a bunch of undrafted free agents and journeymen that you've never even heard of until you watch the game, or you look at fantasy and you're like, oh, who's this Myers guy? I've never heard of him. It's like it's crazy. Like Cam is fine, I think. I mean, he's struggling right now just because there's not much he can do with the weapons that they have right now. Like they don't really have a tight end. They traded Gronk for basically nothing to the Buccaneers, basically as a favor for Tom Brady, and look what it's gotten them. Like they have nothing. So I mean, hopefully they win next week because they play us, and I don't. I really don't this could I was listening to a podcast earlier and it had me thinking like, dang, this could be one of those times where we win a game for no reason and this is just Bill Belichick like throwing it back in the Jets face again. Like first he left us after like 30 seconds as our head coach. Then he makes us lose out on this generational quarterback because at this point it's almost like a foregone conclusion that if we get the number one pick, Sam's not going to be a Jet anymore. And as much as that sucks because he's been put in the worst possible position, it's going to be what's going to happen. So why not just embrace it? Like just lose. But they have a Monday night game next week for some reason. I saw on Twitter someone was like, "Hey, let's put that game at 5 a.m. so we could save people some time wasted from watching that game because Patriots Jets doesn't really hold any weight, at least this year. And I think Belichick would be smiling under his mask if he could give us a win next week and take us out of the running for Trevor Lawrence because there's a lot of teams that have one win that probably that'll be their only win of the season. So we might have to go 0-16 to get this done. And usually I don't advocate tanking and losing because I mean I have a couple teams that have been doing that with no success and maybe it works this time. I don't know. Maybe it works, but come on, Cam. If you got anything in the tank, lay it all out there next Monday at 8 o'clock in MetLife. If I could go there, I'd buy a Patriots jersey just to cheer them on so they could beat us. I'll have my Jets jersey underneath, but they got to come out on top next week.
Yeah, speaking of those teams, like you got the Jags and Giants, both are 1-6, and both are in situations where they would definitely draft Lawrence with Daniel Jones, and obviously Jacksonville are not believers of Minshew anymore, so they're both in that running for it. So you, like you said, you guys might have to go 0-16. Looking at this game, though, are we still considering the Bills as real contenders coming out of the AFC, or was it just another great scheme, great job by Bill Belichick putting the Patriots in a position to win?
Honestly, I don't know because the Bills started off hot. Like Josh Allen was probably one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL, and then over the last like 3-4 games, he's kind of tailed off, and now we're starting to see the Josh Allen that we saw before. Kind of like he's making some throws, but he's missing an equal amount. So I don't know. That defense isn't that good because even we could have beat them last week, and I was sitting there hoping that the Bills could somehow pull that one out, and they did. So I don't know. They're the best team in the division right now, and that's only because two teams are I don't want to say tanking, but they don't really have much to play for. And then the Dolphins, who they put two out there, and they're really not having him throw the ball downfield. Like I don't even think he had over 100 yards passing last night, and that's not going to be the case for the whole season. But I mean, this Dolphins team isn't challenging that Bills team at all.
Now they are a game and a half out behind the Bills. Mentioning Tua, you talk about it. Tua was 12-22, 90 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble in his opening as a career starter. This was his stat line. They won the game, though. One of the things that you might have to consider, if the Bills keep playing like this, the Dolphins do have an elite maybe not elite, but a really good defense. They scored on defense and special teams. That was pretty much their majority of scoring last night in their game. So if the Bills don't get it together, and if Josh Allen isn't able to get on that hot streak again, you might be seeing, the Bills and Dolphins battling for that number 4 seed to be into the playoffs. They started off hot, but they've been kind of shaky ever since. The last game we'll talk about, which was a slew of games, but this one was another interesting one. Chargers, Broncos. Chargers were up big, end up losing 31-30. Herbert had another pretty much big game, 278, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Lock came out and had a really good game, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. It was documented how he had this great inspirational halftime speech. Takeaways from this game and just seeing how Herbert has been balling since he's been given that starting job.
Yeah, Herbert's been balling, but they've also blown a good amount of leads in this last month. Basically, 3 games they've blown where they were up by 2 touchdowns. So as good as he's playing, they got to finish somehow because, the coach is good. He's a good coach. They're not ready to win yet, as you can see. Teams that are ready to win aren't going to blow leads like this to the Broncos, who they're not necessarily Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I don't know. That game was confusing because I just assumed that the Chargers were going to win that one. They were up by so much. Yeah.
I started looking at it. 28 second half points for the Broncos. I was shocked to see that.
Yeah. And Drew Lock, yeah, he's had an up and down season, but if you look at it, this is their guy. And he kind of showed that you give me some time and patience, I can get it done. I can get the job done. He's not John Elway, but he's definitely better than some of the options they've had. Like he's better than Tim Tebow and Paxton Lynch, some of the terrible draft picks John Elway's had. So, hopefully this helps them in the future. This they feed off this. Some of their guys are hurt, like Cortland Sutton's hurt. Philip Lindsay's a little banged up. Who else?
It was another one of those, just like we mentioned with the Steelers and Ravens, Eagles, Cowboys, a division game. So the division games could go either way. No matter what the record, you could throw the records out. Teams play the hardest against their division rivals. Pats, Bills, close game. So another situation, Chargers, Broncos, same division. They both pretty much suck, but hey, if we could go into the end of the year, the offseason, like we beat the Chargers though, that's a little small victory for them.
Mm-hmm.
They know neither of the teams are going to be Kansas City, so
no chance. Not this year. Maybe like 10 years from now when Mahomes is a little older, but
last year of his contract.
Yeah, last year that mega deal that he signed.
But it had us thinking, talking about, we're at the midway point basically. Week 8 is about to be done tonight. We have that Bucks Giants game. I think it's safe to say we don't even need to talk about that. We're both in agreement. I think that the Bucks are going to win this game. Safe to say we're same page.
We're on the same page.
All right.
I don't see any MetLife magic happening tonight.
All right, so we're looking at this midway point, possible Super Bowl contenders who we think possibly can actually win this whole thing. Looking at the playoff picture right now, this year, they have a different format. 7 teams are going to be able to get in. In the AFC, the number 1 seed, you got Pittsburgh, the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo, Tennessee, Baltimore, Indiana, and Cleveland actually right now with a 5-3 record, with the Raiders and Miami both at 4-3 behind them, possibly could get in there. And then you got in the NFC, Seattle, Green Bay, Saints, Philly, Arizona, Tampa Bay, and the Rams also at 5-3, with the 49ers at 4-4 and the Bears behind them at 5-3. Who do you think are actual Super Bowl contenders thus far?
You have to say the Chiefs and the Steelers out of the AFC. I mean, those are probably the two teams that are gonna meet in the AFC Championship if everything goes according to plan. Nobody gets hurt. I mean, I would like to see a Chiefs Seahawks Super Bowl. See Mahomes and Russ go at it and see who's the better team because Seahawks are the best team in the NFC. I mean, I think we're in agreement on that. And Chiefs, record wise, aren't the best team, but I think if they play the Steelers, they're going to be able to get the job done because offensively, there's not many teams that are going to match up with the Chiefs. Like they just have so many weapons that they could give away some and still be fine. But the Steelers, I mean, Big Ben, do I really believe he can work that magic still like he used to, when they won the Super Bowl maybe 10 years ago? I don't know. I don't think he's that quarterback anymore, but you got to rely on that defense. Hopefully that defense is Mahomes' kryptonite and they can stop him that way. But I think it's going to be one of those two AFC teams and the Seahawks because I don't really see any other teams in the NFC doing much to affect the Seahawks because they're letting Russ eat this year. Like he might set a record for himself in touchdown passes, probably over 40 at this point because I think he has over 20 right now, and there's still like 2 months left in the season. So he might get that MVP, but we'll see who gets that ring.
Yeah, if you're looking at it, I still think Kansas City, we put this on our IG page as, something for people to vote on. I still see Kansas City as the best team in the AFC. Pittsburgh, they got the win, but they did struggle stopping the run. As we saw yesterday, Kansas City didn't even have to run because it seemed as if we heard in the post game, the Jets' main focus was to stop the run yesterday. So they didn't want Le'Veon Bell to have a good game and then make them look bad, which the dumbest thing ever. You're gonna do cover one against Patrick Mahomes and all the weapons he has. So I still am going to pick Kansas City as the favorite coming out of there. Steelers struggled. Seattle definitely coming out of the NFC. The Packers they lost yesterday, which wasn't a good loss for them. You had Minnesota running all over them. New Orleans, do we really believe in Drew Brees? Not really.
We'll see. We'll see if Michael Thomas is able to keep it in check and help them a little bit.
Philly, they're getting in there just because they won the division.
Yeah.
Arizona, not as a Super Bowl contender. They're doing better this year. They're doing good, but not a Super Bowl contender. And I still, when it comes down to it, Tampa Bay, maybe seeing Seattle, I'm going to pick Seattle over that matchup. Speaking of Tampa Bay, though, what's your thoughts on them signing Antonio Brown and what happens in regards to Mike Evans, who really hasn't been seeing the touches this year at all? Now you add on Antonio Brown to already Mike Evans, Gronkowski, Godwin, and Gronkowski is getting to a groove now. How does that happen, that pan out for Mike Evans?
It's not looking good. I mean, in fantasy, I would be trying to trade every Mike Evans stock that I have just because AB's coming back. Him and Tom Brady already had chemistry before that. Not to mention Godwin, probably a more athletic receiver at this point. I mean, he's battling injuries. It's going to be tough. Like AB is AB. He's quick. I know he still has it. I mean, out of sight, out of mind, people could forget about how good AB was 2 years ago. But honestly, I think this adds another wrinkle to that team. And that's the only other team I think in the NFC that could really challenge the Seahawks is Tom Brady's Buccaneers because that defense looked legit against the Packers. Tom Brady's starting to pick it up. He's starting to play well again, and we'll see. But AB, that's like huge. That's like putting Kawhi Leonard on the Lakers and just being like, oh, we got him because he was there. Nobody else was willing to go after him, but he's here now, and it's going to be tough for the league now.
I think if they match up, it'll be a shootout. I think Seattle will be able to probably break down that Buccaneer defense and still be able to, get their points, get their moves. DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, not really using the running game. He's the running game basically. You got, as you mentioned, Metcalf, Lockett. So I think there's still a way to move the ball. I think Tampa Bay might be. They have the potential to be like the Chiefs in a sense on the offensive side, and the NFC with Leonard Fournette is actually getting going a little bit. LaShawn McCoy still is on that roster with a Tom Brady who could figure out to use him, and then you add AB to that mix. And if they could get Mike Evans going somewhat, I mean, he has 6 touchdowns, but in regards to getting the catches and the yards, he hasn't gone over 100 yards but one time this season. So that's not something that we saw over the last couple of years with Mike Evans and Jameis Winston, who is not on the same level as Tom Brady, but we'll see what happens. Flag on the play segment, accept or decline. Well, I'll start you off the first one. Perfect transition since we were just talking about Tampa Bay. AB's living quarters this season, accept or decline?
I'll accept it. This should be interesting.
So Antonio Brown will be living at Tom Brady's house for, as far as we can see, foreseeable future during the season. It seems like the agreement was Antonio Brown is signed to the Bucs. It will be Tom Brady's responsibility to get him to practice, make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. What's your thoughts on AB living with Tom Brady for the season?
I mean, hopefully they don't have to call the cops because there's a domestic dispute between AB and Tom Brady. Because if he's not getting the ball, I don't know how well that's going to be sitting with him, especially at the dinner table later that night. So that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. That'll add another some personality into that house, because I feel like it could get dry sometimes. But AB, he'll bring his chains, he'll bring his flamboyancy into Tom Brady's house. He'll probably be playing video games with the kids, but we'll see. Maybe that's how you keep him calm. You give him something to play with at the house, and then he'll chill out a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting, perspective right there. You add AB to the dinner table with Giselle and the kids. That'll be interesting. And hey, Tom Brady vouched for this guy, so I think even when he was in New England, it seems like he was on his best behavior, and he was living with Tom Brady then. So it might be some good things coming in the future for AB right there. Klay Thompson launching a CBD brand called Just Live. Accept or decline?
Yeah.
Klay Thompson now becomes the first active player to back a CBD campaign. He's also doing it with other athletes like Alex Morgan. Do you think the NBA will officially, like how they had it in a bubble, will they take that off of the banned list of things they get tested for, CBD?
I mean, I don't even think CBD should be on the ban list to begin with, because it's something that people use it has healing properties to it. So, I mean, same thing with like marijuana. It has healing components to it that, instead of getting addicted to opioids and other painkillers that some of these players have had to take, you can use CBD, it has its benefits to it. So I mean, shout out to Klay Thompson not being afraid to be the first guy to get involved with that, especially in the NBA. Because I did see last week, who is it? Sean Kemp opened the first black-owned weed distillery.
Yep.
In Seattle. And I mean, he's not a player anymore, but that's kind of the way things are moving at this point. There's probably going to be, once it's legal in more places than just the Midwest and West Coast, then you'll see guys getting involved in that, because that's another way of making money. It's not like selling drugs. You're capitalizing on something that America's probably capitalized on for decades now. So, and you won't get arrested for it, hopefully. So free all those people that were arrested for,
Yep.
weed and all that other stuff. Because if you're gonna make it legal, you also gotta, clear people of those crimes that at the time it was illegal. But CBD, I don't see the downside in it at all. I think a lot of players use it in the off season. I mean, it's like you said, it shouldn't be on the banned substance list. Like CBD is not bad for you at all.
Yeah, I think the NBA is going towards that. Like they didn't test for it in the bubble, so I think they're leaning towards that. The NBA actually approved, backed Klay Thompson in doing so. The NBA is pretty progressive in that regard. So I think that'll happen. And Klay Thompson mentioned how it helped in the healing process. He just came off of surgery. So it's
Mhm.
helped with that. And it's the different types. Like everybody just automatically assumes CBD, marijuana, that you're talking about smoking a joint. But he mentions how, it's the creams and you have pill form and you have gummies. And it's helped him sleep at night. He's getting 8 hours of sleep, which, as we know, is important in the recovery process. So I think within the next 5 years, you'll see the NBA be one of the first out of the between them and the NFL to actually, be kind of cool with CBD and the CBD use. Another rumored report coming out right now is that LaMelo Ball it is not guaranteed to be a top 3 pick, accept or decline.
I'll accept it.
As of right now, it's rumored and believed that LaMelo is purposely not doing well in interviews because he does not want to be on the T-Wolves or Golden State specifically. T-Wolves, they have D'Angelo, that probably won't mix, and Golden State, you have Steph Curry. Thoughts on LaMelo supposedly not doing well in interviews on purpose?
I don't buy it. I think this is teams blowing smoke to try to get him to fall in the draft and maybe drive the asking price for trading up down a little bit, saying like, "Oh, he's tanking his draft stock right now, and I know you want to get some value for it if you're not going to take him." So that's one of the cases this could be. But if you pass on him, I'm pretty sure that he'll probably make you regret it because he's one of those special talents in this draft that, I mean, if you have a chance to get him and you have a opening at point guard, or you want somebody who's going to be there and make plays for the team, this is the kid you want. Like that's the thing that puts him ahead of Anthony Edwards in this draft, is that he makes everybody around him better. And that's what you want. You want guys that make people around them better. You don't want guys who are just focused on them, focused on scoring, because there's a lot more than just scoring in the NBA. Like of course you need scorers, but you also need guys who bring something more. And with LaMelo, he brings a little more than what Anthony Edwards is going to bring you. So if the Timberwolves pass on him just because they have D'Angelo and they have Carl Towns, I don't know. Only
It is
person only person I could agree with them passing on him for is Anthony Edwards, because it might fit a little better because D'Angelo is the point guard and Anthony Edwards is the shooting guard. But like, come on, you could have both of them out there. Like D'Angelo could be the shooting point guard out there, and LaMelo's the guy getting the assists and running the offense, and just see if that works. Because I mean, D'Angelo can shoot, so he might even be better off playing that off guard type of role and being like a secondary facilitator on that team. But the fact that like people are kind of like saying LaMelo's stock is dropping, I don't buy it, because I mean we've seen the kid in the limelight for years. He's been the only one who's been in the limelight for years, and he's not phased by it. So if
it's
that's not who you want, then I don't know what to tell you.
it's believed that he wants to go somewhere like New York. I can understand. Even you looking at that third pick, you got Charlotte there, and they have, not saying that he wouldn't start over them, but they have 2 point guards right there that one was in the running for most improved player, and one you got traded from Boston, who's supposed to be one of your faces of the franchise. So I could get if that's his mindset, and I think players should kind of have a say in some way of how their career is going to go because the team you get drafted, that's what 4 or 5 years that you have to deal with. Typically, depending on what team it is, if it's like a Golden State, that's different. But a T Wolves organization who has been for years trash, do you really want to start your first 4 years kind of wasted in an organization like that? Kind of what Eli Manning did too, with him forcing his way to the Giants. So maybe you see that with Lawrence too. Jets get that number 1 pick, and he's like, "Hey, we ain't doing that one." So I think I wouldn't knock it if that's what really is happening. Last one, Ahmad Rashad played in the NFL, accept or decline.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that. I did not know. I'm with Donovan Mitchell. I did not know that Ahmad Rashad played in the NFL. Not only did he play in the NFL,
He was
my
good.
man,
Cowboys.
11 years. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler, and he was named one of the 50 greatest Vikings of all time. I did not know that.
I know he just because he covers like the NBA and all that stuff, and he was all buddy buddy with Michael Jordan. It probably confused people unless you Googled him. Like this is where people, where people like, yo, Google me. This is one of those instances where you got to Google him to really know, because for the most part, people know Ahmad Rashad as that guy who covered basketball and best friends with Michael Jordan. They don't know the guy before that who played in the NFL. And like you said, he was good. He was a good receiver. So, I mean, he was also married to Mrs. Cosby too. We can't forget
Oh,
that.
we knew about Felicia. We knew about Felicia Rashad. We knew about that one. Yeah, but he only came up today. Yesterday he came up because Dalvin Cook was the first running back since Ahmad Rashad to have, was it 4 touchdowns yesterday? He completely ran all over the Green Bay Packers and gave Vikings hope. They're still kind of in the playoff running with the 7th seed, so we'll see how that goes out. But transitioning to some basketball, we have to talk about it. Daryl Morey was hired for the Sixers. Now, it's a lot of big names in that organization. Now, you got Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, Doc Rivers as the coach. What do you think is or should be Daryl Morey's first move for that rock?
His first move should be trying to figure out if this Ben Simmons Embiid combo is gonna work with Doc Rivers' coaching style, because they might be a little, a little. I don't know what the word is, but it's not been the best fit because it's a little awkward because both guys are more post players than anything. So
Uh,
you have Ben Simmons, who you have running point, and up until the bubble, when they made the switch to him playing off the ball a little more, he can't shoot and he doesn't shoot, and he's admitted that that's not a strength in his game, and when he feels comfortable with it, then he'll start shooting. But right now, he doesn't feel comfortable with that. And how long are you gonna wait? Because Embiid, honestly, that would be the guy I would move because he's like injury prone. And while his stock is so high right now, I would look at maybe even trade him to the Warriors, even though I know that would be brutal for the NBA if Embiid went to the Warriors. But that would be something I would look at, seeing if they would give up that number 2 pick and somebody else, maybe even one of their young guys for Embiid, because you're gonna need something back. You can't give up Embiid for nothing. Like you're gonna need to trade Embiid and get a starter or two to help this team.
Maybe
Preferably,
they took up that number 2 pick and a young piece.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, maybe they even try to work out a 3-team trade so there's more options to be traded to each team. But I don't know. I just feel like Embiid is just not long for Philly. Like his just demeanor. Like he tries to get into people's heads, get the crowd amped, but he also has this like lackadaisical feel and attitude. It feels like sometimes I feel like he turns it off. Like he turns it on and off when depending on how the game's going. Like in the playoffs, he did what he could, but there were times in the playoffs where it looked like he just shut down, and you can't have that if you're a superstar. Like Ben Simmons, that would be the guy I build around. Because honestly, people can talk bad about Ben Simmons all they want, but I think he's going to be one of the top 15 players in the NBA for the next 10, 12 years, honestly. Because only thing missing from his game is a jump shot. He's elite on defense. His passing is great. He's a good rebounder. He does what you want out of a guy. And your number one pick, I mean, you'd expect him to, try to score a little more. That's the only downside of Ben Simmons. Sometimes he gets a little too pass happy, but like Ben Simmons has more upside, I think, than Embiid does, just because he'll be out there full 60 games if we're gonna play that next year, or 70 games next year. He'll be out there. Like he hasn't really gotten hurt except for towards the end of this year. But my belief is that like Ben Simmons is just scratching the surface. Like once that jumper starts falling and he figures it out, like the sky is honestly the limit. And Ben Simmons is not a guy you trade. Like Embiid, that's a guy you flip while he's still hot and before the injuries start piling up, because it's always something every year with Joel Embiid. Like he always gets hurt. Like there's taxes and there's Embiid missing games every year. That's almost the given in this country. Like
That's the thing where I think it's also going to be hard because all the other teams see the same thing. They see that Embiid is always injured, so they might not be able to get as much as they want from him. I'm intrigued to see Daryl Morey, who is the champion and the promoter of micro ball and small ball. I'm intrigued to see what they will be running with Doc Rivers, who kind of was doing a little bit of small ball with that Clippers roster towards the playoffs in the end. So I'm intrigued to see that. If they're going, towards that route, you can definitely probably see Embiid not being there. They might get a less traditional centerpiece, one of the ones that like now, the hybrid stretch five, defend the rim type of player. So that'll be something intriguing to see. And speaking of what a team will be running possibly, you see that over the weekend, the Nets have hired Ime Udoka, and Mike D'Antoni is on the Nets staff along with Amari Stoudemire. But we're going to talk about D'Antoni. What do you think this offense is going to look like next year with D'Antoni now on the coaching staff with Steve Nash, who this is his first year coaching? So I'm pretty sure D'Antoni is going to have a high influence on the offense, especially since he also coached Steve Nash. So how do you see, and pretty much has the most experience on that coaching staff as of right now? You got Amari Stoudemire first year, Udoka, he's been in the league for a little bit, Steve Nash first year, and then, we got D'Antoni, who's been around so long that he's coached three of the players on that coaching staff. So
it's gonna be interesting. It almost looks like they're trying to bring the band back together from the old Phoenix Suns. But with this, I mean, it was funny. I was telling my buddy the other day, I'm like, hey, maybe they bring Sean Marion back as like a trainer or something, help them out. But with this team, I just think that, I mean, D'Antoni, he had some good things he brought to the Rockets. Like it really opened up things with that team. Like they tried the small ball, which I mean, that was the last ditch effort basically for D'Antoni to see if it could work, and it didn't really work. So, I mean, usually with head coaches that get fired like this, they take some time off and kind of like reevaluate the league and see, kind of like what Tibbs did. He sat out a couple years and now he's going to see what he can do to fix the Knicks. So maybe D'Antoni, he's seen some things that he can tell Steve Nash in his ear, like, hey, we need to do this. We need to focus on this. I mean, Steve Nash is not going to ask him about defense because that's never been one of his strong coaching suits. Because none of his teams have really been top 10 in the defensive statistics. They've probably been like bottom five. But offensively, that's what I feel like D'Antoni's been brought in for. He's brought in there to really bring the most out of this team because if you look at it, the Nets could be nasty next year, and they should be nasty because they have Kyrie, one of the top 5 point guards in the league, KD, when he's healthy, I'd say still top 3 player in this league. You got Karras, who, I mean, it would be terrible if they trade him because I think he has so much potential, and it would take so much more from your team to get somebody like Bradley Beal than just relying on somebody who's basically Bradley Beal light for your team. And then you got Spencer Dinwiddie off the bench. Like, leave this team alone. Don't mess it up. Like, just this is the first year they're playing, so they're gonna have to knock out the kinks. You know, Steve Nash doesn't know exactly what to do as a head coach just yet. I mean, they always say point guards make great head coaches, so he has that going for him. But I, I don't know. I think they've brought some good coaches around him to basically facilitate his development as a coach because he's going to be asking them questions on a daily. Like he's going to ask D'Antoni, like, what do you see out there? What do you think offensively we could do? Because like I said, he's not going to ask him about defense. This is all he's being brought here to bring the most out of this team offensively. And I don't see. I mean, you could say he's also there as insurance, just in case the players don't like Steve Nash as a coach, and then you just just let him go, kind of like the Clippers did with Doc, and you got Ty Lue right there. Like he's been a coach already, so he's kind of like you might even say he's the voice behind the face of Steve Nash because he's been a coach for years, and you could say all you want about D'Antoni, but most of his teams have been successful. Even the few years with the Knicks, he had success. We were like second in the East. So you could knock him for not winning rings and his playoff success, but I mean, he's got a winning record as a head coach. So I think that's what he'll bring to Brooklyn. And I mean, what other coaches are on staff? I forget what you just said.
Ami Udoka, Omari Stoudemire. As of right now, they haven't hired anybody else, but those are the two other names that they have on the staff right now.
I mean, the Amari Stoudemire one's the only like head scratcher because I mean, he was. I thought I saw a headline a few months ago saying he was trying to make a comeback to the league, and then now he's an assistant coach. And I don't know what he's going to even bring as an assistant coach. Is he there to joke around with them, play spades on road trips? I don't know.
I think he's supposed to be a chaplain.
Well, that's an expensive that's expensive right there for him to just be all of that.
I know he's went to Israel, got in touch with he considers himself now as a black Jew. So maybe, he's there to pray with the team and make sure that spiritually in tune for the season. Maybe that's what they hired him for. Speaking of D'Antoni's old team, they have filled that vacancy. They hired Steven, who was the son of the well-known Paul Silas, who also was a coach. What style of offense do you think they'll be playing now that there's no D'Antoni there, who was much that 7 seconds or less type of offense? As we mentioned, Daryl Morey, big on getting up 73-point attempts in a game. What type of style do you think they will be playing with Steven Silas at the helm
now? They're gonna score some points, that's for sure. Because him coming from the Mavs, where they were basically the best offensive team in the NBA last year or this past season, he really brought the most out of that team, and he brought the most out of Luca, helped him develop. Like you just got to see that this move is another offensive-minded coach being brought in to see if they can work some magic with this team again. Because James Harden, for as good as he is, I don't know if it's really going to work in Houston. I just don't know because he's been here for what, 8 years, maybe 8 or 9.
8 or 9 years, yeah.
He's been here for a while and he's gotten to conference finals of once or twice. And it might come to a point where you're just like, maybe this isn't working. Like, this is probably the last ditch effort with Harden, definitely for Westbrook. Like, they'll give this another year before they try to move on if things don't work out. But Harden, I mean, he's been the face of the team for the last decade. Like, you don't normally trade guys like that. But if you don't see a future working out, like you don't see this team actually competing for championships, I don't know what you really do. Like Steven Silas is a good coach, so I think they did well with that hire. But he's not being brought to a team that puts fear in people's heart. I mean, they're not like a top five team in the Western Conference. He's not going to like change that overnight. I think there's a lot of things they need to do in the offseason to help Steven Silas bring the most out of this team, whether it's, offseason signings, trades. There's got to be something done because they lost in what, the second round, and they tried that small ball stuff. They traded Clint Capella, which I don't know if I would have done that, especially knowing that you were gonna, clean house with the team. Like, let the next person come in and make changes to this team before you do any of that.
I think it'll be more of a traditional style offense. I think that you'll see Tyson Chandler, player like that, actually get some playing time instead of having PJ Tucker at the center at 6'5".
I got to get him some sneakers first. I think he's been sitting with some UGG slippers for the last year and some change. He hasn't he hasn't used basketball shoes in a while.
I think you'll see him off the bench getting some playing time. I think this is the last year that they try to make it work with Harden and Westbrook, even though it's not like they've had a bunch of years and time to make it work. I don't feel Westbrook is culpable for most of the blame. This has been Harden's team for a while now, and it was CP3 came in. Y'all got rid of CP3.
And they tried to blame it on CP3. And we saw this year that was not
Not the case.
no.
That was not the case. It was not CP3's fault. This year, you heard little reports and rumors that they try to put most of the blame on D'Antoni and Westbrook.
I don't think that was the case either. I don't want to say it's Harden, but at this point,
You
there's been
might have to look at it.
yeah, it might be Harden. Like he might have to change his style because this ISO 20 dribbles a possession is not really winning you championships. Like Kobe even said it. He said like that style of play will never win in this league, and you know that's a guy that I would take his advice. I wouldn't keep playing that way if if he says it's not going to win. I'm not going to keep trying to score 35 points and get knocked out in the second round every year. Like that's not fun. That
Yeah,
they'll put you up there as one of the greatest scorers, but you'll be in that same category as like Barkley. Like, what did you really do? You didn't win anything. Like, you had great stats, and stats are great, but people judge you mostly off of wins and championships. Why do you think Kawhi sits out as many games as he does? As much as it like pisses people off, he's done it. He did it with the Raptors the last year, and what happened? He was fresh in the playoffs and won. Like it's just I don't know. Harden, he might just have to change his game up. Maybe he's not the guy to bring up the ball. Maybe you score 27 points a game, still a lot of points, but you don't need to like hunt for points. Like that's not helping. Like there's so many other guys that could help on this team. Like Eric Gordon, he doesn't get used as much. you got, I mean, you have Westbrook there, and even Westbrook can sometimes get a little crazy out there on the court. But I don't know. Maybe Steven Silas can get these guys to come together, and you might just have to have a heart to heart with them and be like, hey, listen, this is going to be the last go around with you guys. So let's see if we can make this work. You got to change your style up, Russ. You got to, maybe you score less points.
You look at it outside of like a Michael Jordan, it's not often that the league leader in points actually goes on to win the championship. Kobe had to learn it at one point, so did Mike. The 35, 40 points is great. Like in the interview, Kobe mentions it. What he's doing is remarkable, but it's not going to actually win a championship. So some way, somehow, you can still get your buckets because we all remember the years of Kobe averaging 30, 35 and 60 points and 81 points. But ultimately, he was not winning anything, and he needed the help of his teammates. I think they actually have a pretty solid roster. PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, who was huge for them in the playoffs while Westbrook was out, which is obviously apparent. Hey, you could use him. He should be averaging 20, 25 points easily off the bench. He could be like your Lou Will type of player off the bench. Russell Westbrook, he still had good stats this year. I think you'll see even a more productive Westbrook, efficient Westbrook, without it is this three ball offense. He's not a jump shooter. You go to a more traditional style offense, maybe you do something where you see like they had in Dallas, and you have a more efficient Westbrook. Let Westbrook kind of be like a Luka Doncic, who really wasn't shooting that many threes. He wasn't really efficient shooting a three either, but he shot it here and there. You got Harden, who could still get his points, get his buckets, and maybe it's not, like you said, 30 dribbles. Maybe we cut it down to 10. Can we negotiate that? Instead of 30, you do 10.
That might be pulling teeth, though. I mean, he's so used to dribbling so much, he might be standing off the ball still, air dribbling, so he can get those 30 dribbles of possession in still.
But something that we have to look forward to is still, we don't know when the NBA season is going to start. You have the draft coming up this month. The draft will be here in 16 days, November 18th. There's talks of it starting this year, December 22nd, starting next year. Right now, the NBA is fearing if it goes to 2021, they are projecting that they'll lose anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion lost in revenue, and $4 billion if fans aren't allowed in arenas. When do you think probably is the best time for the NBA to start? You even heard Jared Dudley saying, if y'all start in December, you're going to see players like LeBron not playing those first couple games.
I mean, it's a valid threat because, I mean, if you care about the well-being of the players, then you should know that after basically a season that took a year, because they were still working over the break while, the league was shut down. It's not like they took that much time off to, relax and stuff, because some of these time they were still trying to finish the season. So that's a whole year. And then what? You only give them 2 months to be ready for the first game, which is really like a month and a half, because you still got to do training camp and all that stuff. So it's like, what are we doing? You're going to see some injuries happen to some key guys in this league that they'll be upset, and they'll be upset with Adam Silver, and he'll have to eat that bullet. But this could just be avoided. Just push it back to, like they said, Martin Luther King Day. Push it back to like mid-January. Give them that extra month, make it 3 months that they're off instead of like 2 months, because it's not safe. It's not, they need their bodies to recover, especially like guys like Anthony Davis, who, they get hurt more often than other people. So this could be detrimental to them. Some people who have free agency coming up, that they're not going to want to play that soon and risk like millions of dollars. That's not going to happen. So I think that the thing that the NBA needs to do is just Just get it out of the way now. Just say, we're going to push it back. We're going to set a date, end of January. That's when we're going to start the season. Lay everything out already, because I mean, all this speculation is making these NBA players not happy with the league because you're going to bring them back too soon because you want to, the league had to push the games back. Normally, the NBA would be going on right now, but because of, the virus, everything had to change. So maybe they just shorten the season for maybe the next year or two before they go back to the full season that we're so used to. It's just gonna we gotta, accommodate everybody right now. Like this is time we're in times that nobody could have seen when the season started a year ago. Like it's just different. So I think that with the NBA, just fall back. Just just push it back to 2021. We're not starting in 2020. That's way too soon. And like they said, if LeBron's sitting out, that's like Mahomes threatening to sit out in the NBA, in the NFL. Like the face of the league, you can't have that. You can't have guys like defying your authority to your face and expect the rest of the players to respect you and not follow suit. So
I
just
think it's a little too soon. Maybe we could figure out. As a fan, I'd love to see it this year. I'm gonna just be honest. I love to see maybe you do December, you do Christmas, or you do the end of December. The two teams that really suffer the most from this, everybody else, like the Warriors, the Knicks, y'all have had y'all break, like more than enough, long break. It's really the Warriors. I mean the Lakers and the Heat. It's been if they start when they're supposed to start, which is December 1st, will be training camp. That's 51 days of a break actually for the Lakers and the Heat. Every other team, I think, will be able to get ready by then. This is just me talking as a fan. I'd like to see it this year. I think maybe it's something that they negotiate and discuss with the Lakers and the Heat. Maybe they give them the later games. I don't know. Outside of everybody else, the other 30 teams, the other 28 teams, y'all need to be ready December 22nd, game time. The NBA is a business also. Losing close to $1 billion, that I can't see that sitting well with the NBA. So maybe they do something where, like the NFL, you have they did it for the bubble. Maybe you continue it where they have in the contract some type of insurance. If I get injured with us starting earlier and sooner, I'm covered. I think if you give that as an option, I think you probably see more players be more open to actually playing earlier. You have the also thing, something that you want to consider. You have the draft November 18th, and it's 13 days before training camp. So your rookies are hopping right into it. There's no preseason.
no
Saying that
summer league, no nothing.
no all-star game is going to happen this year. So I think, like you mentioned, no summer league, nothing like that. I think those are things to consider with it. But me personally, as a fan, I want to see it this year. So maybe the NBA and Players Association could come to some type of agreement.
So you're saying you don't want the Lakers to repeat because you want them to go into the season with tired legs and exhausted because they didn't get a chance to really, rest. That's what it.
I see this being a year that you'll see the Lakers specifically do load management. I think this is a year where you see LeBron take a page out of Kawhi's book. Anthony Davis, the same thing. I think with them, especially with still it not being the same thing, even if there are, they're going to be playing in their home arenas, you won't see home court still really being a factor. With that being the case, as long as Lakers get into the playoffs, top 3, top 4 seed, we'll see them repeat. We got to see. Then
Who knows if we even have fans? So that's another thing. The NBA could lose even more money this year. So
I think on that front, they'll still lose money regardless, even if they start 2021. At some point, you're still not going to be able to have fans. So it's still going to be a loss of money regarding the fans aspect. But I think in regards of the Lakers repeating or teams getting to the finals that were in the playoffs on these long runs, if you're really that elite of a team, a la Lakers, Clippers going to be in that conversation, Warriors, just get into the playoffs. You get into the playoffs, there's no real home court really, and I think you'll see teams work out, and Lakers will be back in the championship. That'll be the mindset. I think it's just something that they're gonna have to, negotiate. And when you look at it, you got to see too. When we had this discussion, we'll bring this back up because they still haven't figured out what to do. What happens in the offseason? Who's getting traded? Who's getting signed? Then you could really look at like, all right, let's say for example, Lakers don't sign anybody, don't get any new additions or a bigger name. You might then want to wait till January. If you're the Lakers, you might want to wait till then because you got the same roster. But if you get a couple nice new pieces and you're reloaded, stacked, you get rid of Jared Dudley and bring in an actual person that's going to play. You get rid of maybe Cook, who didn't really play. You get rid of him, add some other pieces. I think you'll be having a different conversation. But that's this episode. We'll see what happens with the Lakers, with the NBA season. Y'all already know how it is. You know the vibes. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench mob, we out. Peace.